It's pretty wild how a single moment can look completely different depending on who's watching, right? Well, we're about to dive into how one missed basketball shot in a sixth grade class does exactly that. It unlocks this really powerful lesson on empathy and, seeing the bigger picture.
So that's the big question we're digging into. How can one little event, a moment of success, or in this case, what looks like failure, be seen in such wildly different ways? The answer, of course, is all about perspective. So let's break down how this whole thing played out.
Okay, so let's set the scene. You gotta picture this. It's a super high stakes moment in a basketball game. The gym is loud, all the pressure of the game is on the line, and literally every single eye is glued to one player who's about to take this incredibly important shot. That player's name is Kayla, and this is the game-tying shot. She takes a breath, she shoots, and she misses. Now, for her, in that split second, her whole world just shrinks. There's nothing else but this overwhelming, crushing feeling of disappointment, of failure. But here's where it gets interesting. For Kayla, that moment is a failure, period. But for her coach and her teammate who are watching the exact same thing happen, they're seeing something else entirely. So what on earth did they see that she was missing?
To really help the students get this, the lesson rolls out this really clever writing exercise. See, it's designed to let them actually experience this shift in perspective, not just talk about it.
And the exercise itself, it's so simple, it's brilliant. First, the students just recall the event, the missed shot. Then, they pick a new point of view, maybe the coach or a teammate. The real magic happens in step 3. They rewrite those few seconds from that person's perspective. And then, the most important part, they reflect on how that one simple change completely flips the meaning of the event.
And wow, the results are pretty powerful when you put them side by side like this. On one side, you have Kayla, who just felt disappointment and was totally focused on the miss. But from the coach's view, he saw courage just for taking the shot in the first place. He was focused on her effort, on her growth. It literally transforms a moment of failure into a moment of learning. Same event, two completely different stories. Okay, and this is where the lesson takes this really fascinating turn. It starts to suggest that this whole practice of changing our point of view, well, it's not just about being a nice person. It's actually a doorway to a much, much deeper, maybe even spiritual, way of seeing the world. This whole idea is anchored in a passage from 1 Samuel, and it introduces this concept that there are really two ways of seeing. You can focus on the outward appearance, like, say, a missed shot, or you can look deeper at what it calls the heart. So what does looking at the heart actually mean here in our story? Well, it's about seeing what the coach saw. It's not just seeing the action, the miss, but seeing the intention, the courage, the character behind the action. It's about recognizing the person someone is becoming, even in a moment that looks like a failure. And to really drive this point home, the lesson brings up examples of how Jesus interacted with people. See, back then, people like tax collectors or the sick were basically defined by that outward label. But the point is, he consistently looked right past those labels to see their inner character, their value as a person. It's another perfect example of looking at the heart. This all builds up to the lesson's big metaphor, a really powerful image that just ties everything together. Let's build it out, step by step. First, from our immediate point of view, we see a simple fact, a missed shot. That's it. It's like a single frame in a movie. But then, when we put on our empathy glasses, our perspective gets wider. We see what the coach saw, growth. Suddenly, our view expands, and we see a bigger piece of the story. And here it is, the ultimate shift in perspective. It's the idea that God sees the full film, not just the single frame of the miss, not even just the scene of the game, but the entire movie of a person's life. All their past efforts, their future potential, and the incredible character they're becoming. So the big takeaway here is that practicing empathy, well, it's more than just a social skill. According to this way of thinking, it's actually a way to practice a more compassionate, maybe even a more divine way of seeing the people all around us. So you might be asking yourself, what's the bigger picture here? I mean, why teach a writing class this way? It all comes from the core educational philosophy of HeroesMart Academy, which is where this lesson came from. At the heart of their philosophy is this belief that you just can't separate education and morality. The thinking is that knowledge without character, well, it can actually be pretty harmful.
So their whole goal is to weave them together, aiming for what a passage in Romans calls the peace that comes from having a spiritual mindset.
So at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to make smart kids. It's to help cultivate good people, individuals who use their skills and their perspective to help others, not hurt them. It's really about educating the heart, right alongside the mind. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our own lives, in our interactions, in the quick judgments we make about others or even ourselves, what full film might we be missing? What could we see if we just tried to change our point of view?